Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Bonjour, you're watching Women's Wrestling. Let's start that again. It's been a long day. Bonjour, you're watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. My name is TK Trinidad, aka the Canadian Assassin, and I am not alone. She is one of the top cat moms in the universe, and she's also a wrestler. Please welcome Sarah the Rebel.
What up?
Hey, and she is also the top wrestling mom in the planet, like equivalent to universe. You know what I'm talking about. Just whatever the equivalent to that is. And she is the farmer's daughter, hailing from the valley. Please welcome Emily May.
Hey everyone. Wow, that was an intro, TK.
I mean, I'm trying to figure something out to include cats so you guys just don't talk about cats for the rest of the show.
I mean, talk about cats because Sheik has a cat.
I do have a cat.
Yeah, goodness. See? So, and my cats are sleeping right now, so I don't know, maybe they'll pop on.
Oh, geez. Anyways, it's not about us. It's about our amazing guest. She is the mother of the House of Hoodslam, which I really love the name, by the way. Please welcome Dark Sheik.
Thank you so much. I think it's going to be great to be here. We'll see. I'm expecting it to be.
You're safe. You're safe. It's a safe environment. How are you doing?
I'm doing.
It was like, I don't know. We'll see. You have an amazing story. I read there's a whole bunch of articles on you, which I'm sure you know because they interviewed you. You have just an amazing story on how Hoodslam came about. And I've heard the name, but I didn't know the full story and how it kind of everything that involved. So could you, for people who are like me, who are like, I have no idea, but this is an amazing concept, please kind of talk us through.
Sure. At first, it was like a underground concert with the wrestling ring with, a lot of silly cosplay and weed and alcohol. And it was really just a party for the wrestlers that I was doing out of this warehouse that my friend's band played in Oakland. We did our first shows for free for a year. And after that, we moved on to more venues, to being at the Oakland Metro every week. And it evolved into an accidental phenomenon, accidentally super progressive. It wasn't really our goal, but it turns out we're just nice compared to everyone else. But also just very silly gimmicks, storylines. It's very comic book, but also tongue in cheek. One of our mottos is "This is real," because as everyone knows with wrestling, it's very real. So we also say don't bring your fucking kids because the show is 21 and up. It's always at a bar. I try to only wrestle places that serve alcohol. It was going great. I was having a blast for a long time. We were just about to do our 10-year anniversary, which would have included Hoodslam, Glam, which is our sister promotion that spotlights femme personalities, and Sexy Good Time Wrestle Show, another offspring of Hoodslam. It's really exciting. And we also have a great partnership with Stoner U Dojo that's produced all this talent that's gone to NXT or other places. And I don't know, it's been an amazing ride. I'm not sure what story you heard or what people want to hear, but that's where my head's at right now after 8 months of not doing it.
I know. How's COVID been treating you?
I mean, it's cool because I get to stay at home and play with my cat. But it's also a big hassle because I love to wrestle, and promoting is how I make a living. It's how I pay my rent. And I'm used to traveling, taking 4 or 5 flights a weekend, going back and forth. And now I'm just at home all weekend and my girlfriend gets mad at me. So it's nice.
Sarah got so excited about the cats.
I know, Sarah got so excited.
Because she had a neighborhood cat that hung around. So I already was excited about Sheik getting a cat. And then she got her own real cat that belongs to her and is not a neighborhood cat. But it is funny, your relationship started just a little bit before quarantine, right?
Yeah,
so how's that been as far as I don't know, I found it for myself, getting to know somebody when you are kind of just relegated to them is interesting. Have you had any fun discoveries?
It's been great. I'm not going to say all the discoveries here, but I love it. I've lived on my own for 6 or so years before. Now I'm staying with them, and it's just really, I don't know, it's juxtaposed with being in this pandemic and this quarantine, but it's also just heavenly because I was there alone and I didn't mind that. But now there's a cat, there's another person. They both like me. Like, it's wonderful.
Living the dream.
Yeah.
Have you so a lot of people have picked up new hobbies or picked up new or started like cooking again or like started to bake for the first time. Is there anything new that you started to do and focus on as like the world kind of shut down?
Recently I started getting more into tarot, which is something I've always been interested in, but it was a little bit daunting. There's 78 cards and they're upside down and it means something else. That's so many things to remember. But I'm taking it step by step and just kind of like taking it slowly. And I'm really enjoying what I'm getting back. And I feel like it really works is the crazy thing. I've only done like a couple, we'll say readings about my life, but then it was like, oh shit, that was spot on. So yeah, I recommend it. And it really started because I have them right next to me because I was going to do tarot. Someone gave me a deck because they drew me as one of the cards. Every card in this is wrestlers. I don't know where you can buy it, so don't worry about that. But it's really lovely, and it's a great drawing of me.
That's so funny. I started learning tarot in quarantine too, and I agree with you. The fact that there's 78 cards, they have an esoteric and a different kind of meaning and a different meaning. They're upside down. You're right. It is a lot of study that goes into it.
It's tricky. It's not just upside down or reversed and like, whatever. It's also like for spirituality, but then also for love. And it's like, this means like loyalty and trust and togetherness, but also betrayal. Sometimes. Right. So like it's wonderful.
Now with the I feel with COVID and quarantine, it kind of brought an awareness to people who are not in the majority. And when you look at wrestling, it was kind of relegated to like, men and white men in particular. Do you think that there has been now more of an acceptance of everybody else? And are people, once this is kind of all over, have people been like reaching out to you and just saying, hey, I really love the concept and I want you to bring it to this part of, the US?
No, people have not. There's been a few articles about me and I did this show called The Collective where everyone said I was amazing. But no, nobody's calling me to do more interviews. But as far as like actually wrestling on a show, I think people still need some time. I will say there's definitely like a shift might be a little bit too generous. There's been a change though, and people are like, it's not that wrestling is starting to be wiser, it's that the fans are just starting to be louder and demanding what they want to see. And most of the time that's representation and storylines that don't feel like they're written by some white man who has no perspective of the people they're writing about. So you're seeing a lot more of that demand, and it's always been, to plug Hoodslam again, we've always said that what separates us is a lot of things, but also that as a rule, we don't insult the audience's intelligence. We know that they're smart enough to follow a complex storyline, or they're like into something that might be like Twin Peaksy or confusing. Like they're open to all these different things. And along with that, they're open to like, maybe a Persian trans woman, or having more than like one black wrestler on the show. Like, if there's two, not making them tag team. Like, I don't know if this is like, just bugs me because I'm only speaking from my perspective, but I think it's getting better, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, definitely like just a lot of understanding and education. And I also feel for, some of the folks who are, in the middle of like, they just see themselves all the time. It's hard to understand something else that they never see, and all they see on TV is a stereotype. So, it's just kind of, yes, as a minority, I want to see, somebody that looks like me, but then also understanding that, there are people who look like me that they just see people that look like them all the time too, and they don't understand the other side. So it's just, I do see, I wouldn't call it a shift. I would call it more like a, like maybe like a pinky toenail in the water, like not even.
Yeah. We haven't jumped all the way in yet, but we're definitely like testing the water. We have a good feel for whatever. I don't know how to keep going with this metaphor. I'm sorry. But,
yeah.
but I liked it. We're wet. Not all the way in, but we're a little wet.
So can you explain? So here's my, I had a, I wouldn't say an argument, but I had can you explain to me, as far as trans, is it something that's within you? Is it a choice? Or like, just explain to the people who like, I'm accepting of it, but I don't really know. So could you kind of explain to everybody in the world who doesn't know that, like, what's going on, and what was your journey like?
I can try. I can say that just everyone has their own journey, and we should treat each other how we want to be treated. And if someone's journey involves being their true gender in spite of societal norms, maybe being in conflict with that, I think we should support them. They're already having a tough time. I can say, like, being trans, I can, like, put on a hoodie and a hat and not wear makeup and maybe just be like cis white passing, honestly. So when you say it's a choice, like, maybe a little bit more than being a minority that is easily identifiable at all times. Like any Black person, some Middle Eastern people, a lot of different types. It's not a choice as far as my happiness, though, and like my, how do I say it? The value of my life. Like, yeah, I guess I could just not transition and like do what would make someone else happy, but it would be miserable for me, and I might not make it that long, honestly. And I assume the choices I make along the way will be wrong because they won't be based on what's really happening. They'll be based on, I think other people want me to do, and that's just a recipe for failure. So, I mean, if you want to know like about gender stuff, that's a whole thing too. But for me, it's just baseline. Like, I'm trying to be happy, and I want everyone else to be happy too. If we're all happy, we're all doing better. And like, I do better work when I'm happy. I can contribute more back to the world. So that's it for me. People need a bigger reason than that. Like, I'm sure there's all kinds of details, and maybe one of them will like really touch their heart, but like, that should be enough.
No, that was perfect. That was,
thank you. That's nice.
Yeah, there's mic drop. Any other questions?
So how what advice would like someone trying to go through a journey similar to yours, what would you recommend, like, advice going through that process?
I think reading about, philosophy in general, or like human personalities and like how our brains think, so you can really like understand if you're having like inklings and you're not sure, you should learn about how our brains work and what they're trying to tell us. There's also just, it was different for me because I lived on my own and I worked for myself. So that put me in a position where I could just be like, hey, I'm trans, and I'm going to dress as a woman when I go to work, and I'm not going to be kicked out of my home by any family members. I already like having a strange relationship with my family outside of my gender, so it was really not much of me to lose. But to be honest, I actually gained a lot more. So I think be honest with yourself. Don't put expectations on yourself. Everyone's journey takes different times. And when you go on YouTube and you're looking at all these like glamorous trans people who are gorgeous and they're just camera ready, and you're like, I need laser on my face. Like, don't beat yourself up. Just do the steps, put in your time. It's not a light switch that you flip and you're like, I feel like a woman now, or you feel like whatever gender you feel like you want to be. I'm speaking about myself personally. It's a bunch of little things you do over and over and over that eventually become the totality of everything you're doing. I'd recommend people to be safe though, and just if you can, find someone to talk to, because it just helps so much to have a friend that you can like, I mean, it's a pandemic, so you can't hug them right now, but that you can rely on and get comfort from. And maybe don't assume how people will react, because I was very pleasantly surprised by so many people that were accepting of me without an explanation. They just were like, well, you're my friend, so nothing's changed.
So now let's get a little bit back to wrestling. So you've been wrestling since you were in high school. As far as like the changes, like I've seen changes in wrestling over the last, 3 or 4 years. What changes have you seen that you like and dislike as far as wrestling?
I feel like, and I'm not really faulting this, but what's happened on television is that things have become so produced, maybe overproduced, that the spirit of wrestling is kind of lost. It's really shiny, it's really polished. I'm not saying it's bad, but that moments of like spontaneity and creativity that come from the performer, I think, are really muffled, and they're not able to excel and find themselves. Maybe they're not all ready today, but like Steve Austin wasn't Steve Austin the first day he wrestled. He had 8 years of doing different styles of promos and different characters and trying stuff until he found something that was undeniable. And I think when they do come across something undeniable, and I'll just say outright, I don't like this, that their instinct is to try and control it and make it theirs. And if they can't, they want to eliminate it because they don't like things that are out of their hands, which is silly because it's pro wrestling. It belongs to the fans. We can put on a show, but like what people take away from it will always, from art and from all art, like what they take away is always correct. They're the ones that are consuming the art. What you mean isn't wrong too, but you can't like tell someone else that their interpretation of it is wrong once you've put it out there. That's part of maybe the scary part of like producing art. What I like about it is, clearly the diversity, the breaking of stereotypes, that people don't send me Islamic death threat stuff. I mean, because I'm from a Muslim background, I don't get that anymore because it was a big thing that a wrestler can just go to a company and be themselves and not have to be like some type of caricature of a different religion or background. It's tough to talk about because it's something that I personally did for so long. People wouldn't book me unless I was this type of Sheik. So I had to do a lot of things that I made choices that weren't exactly like, so I would never be embarrassed and no one that was Iranian like me would ever be embarrassed to see me. But I still had to go out and pray. I didn't speak English a lot. And, all these aesthetic choices that clearly were not the direction I wanted to be going in. And I was afraid that if I lost them, then I would no longer have any value to these people around me. And that's a bad mindset. My value comes from the performance I bring. So, and honestly, my aesthetic now is like even better, if you ask me.
So is there a moment, like I almost think of when you said that, it was the whole thing with Dave Chappelle when he had the Dave Chappelle show, and he essentially just, there's a moment where one sketch, he's like, they're not laughing with me, they're laughing at me. And it's my show. And he literally stopped and moved to Africa for like 3 years. So is there a moment where you felt like there was one, promotion or one moment where you're just like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore? Or was it like a slow progression?
It was a general easy, like just switch to like what I'm doing now. There's a lot of like stages in the middle and different characters. I wore a robot mask for a couple of years, which I didn't really plan on doing. It just kept happening. For me, it wasn't one moment. It was just the more I was myself and the more I'm at my own show and I can do whatever I want, the more that's what came out and that's what people reacted to. So I would keep doing. There was what it was when I was doing Sheik Kanabati. People would always ask me to do something that was past the line I was comfortable with doing. Like, they're like, we're going to bring a woman out in a burqa and you shove her down and you walk up her back to go in the ring like steps. I'm like, why? Like, we don't wear burqas in Iran. They're like, oh, but we didn't know that and we don't care. Or like, get on the mic and speak Arabic. And I'm like, I don't speak Arabic. I speak Farsi. All these things we want to put this white dude who has a beard with you and he's like Osama bin Laden. I'm just like, nah, like I'm not doing any of this. Like, Sheik Kanabati, I'm Iranian and that's it. Like, anything beyond that, well, I would say I'm not doing it. And what would inevitably happen is they would find some European, I don't know, I want to say white dude, but like I'm also pale as fuck. But like they'd find some white dude and who has a beard and they'd be like, well, this is our Sheik now. And I would lose the booking and they would get it. I mean, it's happened at All Pro Wrestling in my backyard. I was doing a positive babyface Sheik and they didn't, I guess, want to have that. So they brought in another Sheik who had a camel on his tights and he does the camel clutch and he speaks gibberish, not Arabic. I don't think he's of that background. And I don't know. That sucks. I'm not sure where I'm trying to go with this, but you just see these things happen. That's kind of what makes you play the game for so long until you can find a space where people will value for yourself, whether it means starting it like I did or finding it like everyone who I book.
Absolutely. I think that's such an interesting point that you bring up. You know, sometimes people in the Black community will give slack to the Black wrestlers at WWE saying like, oh, well, why are you contributing to this stereotype of the dancing happy Black person? You know, because so many of them do it. But as you just said, it's like, okay, I have to do it or I lose the booking. And these people don't quite understand possibly what they're asking of me or why they're making it this way. And as someone who's performed at Glam, kudos for creating such a wonderful safe space. I tell everyone who I bring there, I'm like, that was your best match you've ever had. And it's always true because there are so many people. I'll use Maserati as an example. She was our superstar the week before. She recently just won the FSW Women's Championship. She won the OVW Women's Championship before that. Before that, she was very relegated to a small spot where nobody was talking about her. Nobody knew who she was because she was feeling that pressure on all sides to be something. And at Glam, which is one of Hoodslam's shows, she got to just feel comfortable enough to just be herself. And from there, I've just seen her growth and growth and growth. So you really are creating a space. And it matters in wrestling where wrestlers can feel comfortable enough to try who they are out. And then just like with you, the crowd respects that authenticity to yourself, I feel like, and it only helps you and grows. So kudos to you for not being selfish with your, you know what I mean? Like actually being able to make a space where everyone gets to kind of benefit from that.
Well, I'm actually thinking about trying to help more people with a new project, but maybe that's a discussion for another time.
Well, that's exciting.
But thank you very much. It's like the best gift. It's something I miss a lot actually in quarantine is having other people wrestle at the show because I get to see them feel so fulfilled.
Absolutely.
Have you thought about like, you know, because we don't know when all this is, you know, there's like vaccines, we're waiting on stuff. Have you thought about kind of doing something virtually for like the Hoodslam community and kind of bringing people together?
Yeah. We were doing some things at first, like weekly, we were doing just studio shows that were kind of like more skits, but no one was writing it. We were just turning on the camera and talking and pretending we were like only these 7 people in this commune. And we had our pod and like only one, we were just doing like a whole, I don't know, episodic thing, but I've stepped back from it now. And I think that in the near future, we'll start doing more or any matches from Stoner U Dojo because the ring is up there all the time. I still have the cameras. I still have everything that went into putting on a show. I just don't want to do it in any way that would endanger someone. Right. And hopefully I want to do it in a way that it's rewarding for the performers, like financially even. Before I sold tickets. Now, like I'd be like, hey, I'm not going to ask someone to drive 6 hours and not give them like their pay. So it's tricky. I'm sure some of them would be like willing and just dying to get out, but I'm finding the balance still there. It's a great suggestion. I like it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We all have to like think outside the box. We all are like super creative and we're all trying to figure it out. So
yeah, this world has definitely brought on some interesting things. Now, as far as like hopes for 2021, just kind of piggybacking off what Emily was saying, like what do you know, if they were all to pandemic stuff to be over with, like kind of what are you hoping for Hoodslam? Because I know you mentioned the 10th anniversary that didn't, you know, happen because of everything. So will you just make it a 10th anniversary in 2021 or, you know, I think
we would just pick up with our Entertainia 10 because how do we miss like Entertainia X? That's what we've been building to. I've literally been writing towards it for 10 years. Unfortunately, a lot of the momentum we picked up on isn't there anymore. So things would have to change. A lot of the attitudes have changed, you know, as far as wrestlers. Some of them don't wrestle anymore, sadly. So it'll be different. I hope that we can do it. I'd like to see us doing shows again. I don't know if the Metro, where we had shows every Friday, will be available anymore. In fact, I think it won't, sadly. Yeah, big teardrop, because that was my home for like 9 of the last 10 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's an awesome venue. As someone who's been there, like you feel like you're in a concert and you're
Yeah.
on stage, and it's great, and good pizza.
It's amazing pizza. I love that. And they give me
Man, I
free
want the
drinks.
pizza now.
I know, me too. Free drinks is always
I'll
helpful
order.
as well.
Yeah.
Now, is there any or are there any wrestlers that like you see that you're like, oh my gosh, I would love to like work with this person, or what they're doing, like their rise has been amazing. It's like any wrestler that your eye is kind of keen to?
Yeah, there's actually like I'll try and think of a few. And if like it turns out they said something shitty on Twitter, I didn't catch it yet, so sorry. But Priscilla Kelly, it seemed like a really like interesting and good and like fun performer. I don't know. Their character is just like, it seems to me authentically them. I always see it from afar. I've never met them. I like Ashton Starr a lot. I hope I'm saying their name right. I kind of just got a chance to meet them for the first time at Effie's Big Gay Brunch, and they're awesome to be around. And then I got to see them on AEW Dark, and that was awesome. That was just like a great star-making performance.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sunny Kiss is amazing. I guess they already got a job, so I'm going to leave them out of this. There's this luchadora named Volcana I think is pretty good. I want her to come back.
So what do you think of like Sunny has been on our show, I think twice already. Like, what do you think of, because I feel like 5 years ago, him having a job would have been like unheard of. And the fact that like he's on AEW, and as far as I can see, and I'm not on Twitter as often, like there's not like backlash. There's an acceptance. So like what do you think of that? That's just it just seems like such an amazing thing that like, it seems like everything's speeding up as far as, the totality of humans.
Yeah. I think they're perfect for the position they're in, because not only are they like glamorous, and like I've seen them walk into a locker room and they're like shiny already. Like they're already glittery. I mean, they're just a star walking. But also when they get in the ring, they're bringing it like so hard, like undeniably. And that's really what I think it takes to change people's minds, is because they're going to scoff. But then when you get in the ring and you do something they've never seen before, like they're impressed and they can't deny it with their own eyes. So I think them having a job and it being, and them being able to still be themselves. You don't see concessions or compromises. You're seeing like full dance routines for an entrance, changing. Like I was blown up watching it. I can't even imagine wrestling after. It's just so cool to see. It's amazing and inspiring, and like I think also elevating the bar, not for queer wrestlers, for all the wrestlers on that roster.
And then like as far as like your hopes, or where you hope to see wrestling, after this pandemic's over, and after that, like where are the things that you're like, man, I wish this will happen one day, or this you'll see, or like what's your kind of hopes for wrestling?
I'm kind of working on something. I don't want to like jump in for a free plug, but I feel like it talks about what you're putting down. And it's that I think wrestling, what we need to see more of, and it's there, it's always on the fringes and it's always like right there, but we don't look at it. It's that wrestling brings people peace and joy and fulfillment, and helped me, and I'm sure so many others, find themselves. And people are like, wrestlers will say, oh, I love wrestling, and fans love wrestling, but they'll hide that around a lot of people, or they'll put it away, or they'll let them say like, okay, well, wrestling isn't real this or real that. It doesn't belong in sports. It doesn't deserve a sports award. It doesn't deserve an Emmy. It doesn't deserve anything somehow. So what I want to see is the love. We need to like stand up for it and actually speak on it. And when people say like, oh, wrestling, politics, wrestling is like drag, and I love drag, but like, no, drag is like wrestling, because wrestling is one of the oldest things on the planet. So when we make these comparisons, I feel like it's not hurting anything, but I would just love to see the joy put first all the time. And part of that for me is like I found a holy moment being in the ring all the time. And every ring I go to is like somewhere safe for me. I can take a nap in any ring in the world because it's like, and I can't do that in anyone's car or anyone's house, but I could do it in any ring. And I realized recently that this is like how some people feel about churches. Like that's how I feel about it. So what I've done, I've told a few wrestlers, and I haven't really mentioned it on podcasts much, but I want to say it here, and you can edit it out if you don't like it. I've started a religion, a church of wrestling. And I've done the government paperwork to make it legit. And it's like, I think it's the first one that's ever been done. And I've seen churches for Star Wars and Simpsons and so many other things. Why not one for wrestling? Why don't we put that love like really first, really like put it up front and look out for each other within that, you know? Not be like, well, they're a deathmatch wrestler, so they deserve it. Because that's what people that don't wrestle think about every wrestler. Like they brought upon themselves and they like, no, let's have sympathy for each other. Even if we are each other's competition for contracts, you can have sympathy for your competition. You can have love for anyone that I think is exemplifying the authentic spirit of what wrestling can be.
You know, now that you've said that, I've never thought about it before, but every time I would step into the WoW ring, that is the feeling in my heart, peace. It was like, and that sounds like at odds with what wrestling is, which is violence. But but in the ring, I was like, and everyone feels it too. Because you're there, you're home. So I definitely I see what you're saying about it being that, and kudos for doing something with that thought and
thank you.
Making it into something that other people could perhaps focus on, because some wrestlers come into wrestling because they have issues in other places, and giving them a place to find some peace in a way that's not just, I don't know why, which is me, right? I don't know why I feel this way, but I love.
Why do you feel that way?
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like there's also something there for the fans and like for people that actually put shows on. You know, from my perspective, like I'm not a wrestler, but I help put shows on, and there's like an emotional kind of, and like with any like theater, like a lot of like you've done theater before, so you have that feeling after a show that like you've touched an audience and you've connected with someone, and it's that connection that we're all feeling. Like we all want to make a difference in people's lives and connect with someone on a deeper level. And I feel like that's what we're all trying to do, you know, when we put on a show or when we go out into the ring for the first time, and we're telling these stories to help, you know, have something in common with someone.
Yeah, I mean, being outside the ring, I've been to many shows since I started wrestling, and also before I started wrestling, I would go to indie shows and others, you know, sometimes like a WCW. And when those lights go down, you know, if the gym lets you do that in there, it's special. I get like, I feel it coming up. I feel at home. I don't feel like me and all my fears and my worries and my bills. And like, no, all I feel is like the spirit of what is taking place.
Yeah. Well, it's a form of escape in a way where you get to like be in this world for 2 hours and you get to just experience it together with, I wish we had crowds now, but you know, at the time with a group of people.
Yeah. I find it to be a holy moment personally. And like, I think if you told someone, well, my religion is pro wrestling, maybe you'd be embarrassed to say that. I don't think people should be. So that's kind of my goal.
So I have so many. So the journalist in me has so many questions that I don't know if you can answer them. So like, is it going to be a physical church, or like, is there a doctrine, or like, is it more of a concept? Like what does it entail?
My ideas, and they're just ideas at this point. What I'd like is, at this point, we could only do meetings through Zoom, but I think that every wrestling school is pretty much a church already, and people are already congregating there. And like, hey, maybe once a week or after training, or maybe separate from training, we actually talk about what we love about wrestling and how it's helped us. I think also as there's so many wonderful fans and supporters. And I think that sometimes they're just trying to give money to us to help. I know I've had it from a lot of fans that are buying my shirt because they know I'm not making any money right now. And I think that's wonderful. And I think that it'd be cool if we could do shows for them and they could support those. Then from the money we take from those and maybe from other donations, we could set up a fund to take care of wrestlers when they're injured or their gear gets stolen or their house catches fire. Or like my real wish is that doesn't happen and we use that money to fund projects that wrestlers have. Like more artistic, reaching to the limits of what we can be, you know, pushing the boundaries more and more. And if we can, like, that's hard to do when you don't have any money and you don't have any resources. So I'd love if that was where we ended, where we could like take care of each other when we're sick and we can help each other out when we have really cool ideas. That's like my end game. And maybe at this point, there isn't like an official doctrine because I need to talk to more people. I don't want it all to come from me. I can like listen to wrestling, but it's not talking to just me. It's talking to everybody. Right. So I'd love to get more opinions so I can like nail down what that is. But at this point, it's really just the joy, the feeling, the love for wrestling, not for being a wrestler, but for wrestling. And I hope to grow it from there. I've asked a few people to film me things and I'm like going to put them out. I have a website. I probably, you know, it's churchofwrestling.com. Surprisingly, that was available. So it's in like prototype version right now, but maybe by the time, maybe all this will like make me hustle.
I mean, I love the concept because I feel like everybody, for lack of a better word, but not the negative version of it, everybody has different sects or cults. Like, you know, I did CrossFit and, you know, I have a whole CrossFit, you know, family, and I have a whole track and field family, and I have a whole student, like if you're part of a certain, you're part of a certain circle, like even if I don't know you, because you're part of that circle, I've already accepted you. And that's the same thing I find with wrestlers and just interviewing so many wrestlers in particular, just kind of one of those things where it's just like, I'm so happy to see amazing things happen to people that are wrestling. And I get very offended when people say wrestling is fake. Like I get an attitude and I've never been in the ring. I'll never be in the ring. And it's just kind of one of those things where it's just like, because I know so many of them and I know that they give their blood, sweat, and tears for something that they believe in and it's their dream and they're making people happy and it makes them happy. That makes me happy. And then I get offended if you don't see the picture, you know what I'm saying? Or at least give it a chance. So it's just so the concept is a really great concept just to bring people together and, you know, have those conversations. Cause I'm sure there's some people who, we've interviewed some wrestlers where it just feels like they're on an island. And then there's some wrestlers where it's just like this one particular wrestler knows 20 of them. And you know what I'm saying? It's just kind of one of those, it's just nice that if they can all come to like one place or at least have access to it.
Yeah. I don't like intend for it to be like this next big thing or the end all be all like this is the end of wrestling. We're all just no, this is just something that is happening now, but it's always been happening. That's why it blew my mind when that website was available. Like this has always been there. I finally like knew what to call it, what to name it.
Sounds good. So we are going to get into something called rapid hot tags. So I'm going to ask you a few questions and you're going to say the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
I'm so wordy. I'm going to try.
Just one word. So here we go. Favorite quarantine snack?
Chips and salsa.
Do you prefer working out at home or at the gym?
At home.
Cooking at home or ordering out?
Why not both?
Oh, I'll take that. If you could wake up tomorrow having gained one quality or ability, what would it be?
Telekinesis.
I like that. What are you most grateful for in your life?
My life, just all of it.
If you were able to live to the age of 90 and retain either the mind or body of a 30-year-old for the last 60 years of your life, what would you choose?
The mind, because I'll just think of some way to look pretty still.
Yay! You're on my team. You're on my team. I'm team mind. I got 2 today.
Emily was like happy before you even finished the sentence.
And I was like, oh.
I had to think about it a little. I don't know.
I know, right? It's.
But I actually do like. Nobody's ever said that. Have the mind, so then you can figure out a way to retain the body.
Yeah. Why? I understand that it's going to that.
See, this is how we're thinking. Team mind. We're gonna make it happen.
I don't know.
We're gonna get the best of both worlds.
I might be hovering a little bit. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh, listen, Sheik is all about philosophy. Sheik is highly intelligent. Listen, TK, are you and I that smart to figure out a way to still look cute? Let's think about this. So come back to the body side.
Thank you. I don't know where to go with that. Let's hit the star of the week. Let's do that.
Today's star of the week is Still Life with Apricots and Pears, or it might be apricots because I've never said that word out loud. The first openly non-binary pro wrestling champion debuted in 2018 and went on to win Shikara's 2019 Young Lions Cup tournament. Since then, they've wrestled at Atomic Championship Wrestling, Beyond Wrestling, Hoodslam, Outlaw Wrestling, and more. In fact, they recently wrestled Dark Sheik at GCWFE's Big Gay Brunch. Be sure to follow them at Apricots Pairs or Apricots Pairs and tell them Women's Wrestling Talk sent you. Want to learn more about a star of the indie wrestling scene? Shoot us your suggestions for future stars of the week.
Ooh, that was really well done.
Thank you. My mom has an English accent, so I am constantly questioning how I pronounce things. I'm like,
I've seen her have the conversation with the ring announcer, and she says that whichever one you say, I'm going to argue with you.
Perfect. Love it.
Spoiler. Whoops. Maybe I should have kept that. That wasn't my secret to give. Whoops.
No. I love it. Now that fits perfectly in with the canon.
Every time I read their name, I read it at Apricot Spears. I don't know what to do.
And I'm like, oh, is this a Britney Spears joke? And then my brain caught up like later, and I was like, no, it's the multiple of the fruit.
Well, they're lovely, and she's incredibly talented. And she's like one of my favorite people, and they're so good.
Yeah,
you know,
you two together were so good. So
that was like lucky on my part, but I'm happy it turned out that way. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Well, can you thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And for folks who are not following you, even though they should, where can they find you on social?
I'm at Dark Sheik FTF on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. I'm on Twitch. I'm at the liquor store on 24th and San Pablo a lot. If you want to come find me there. That'd be it. And look up at Hoodslam. Everything at Hoodslam.
What's your favorite drink of choice?
I got to be honest. Since I started taking my medicine for being a gorgeous woman on the outside and mentally, I don't drink as much as I used to. But I really like a hot toddy, like when I'm feeling sick or cold. And that, if you don't know, is take a cup. It's really easy. Take a cup, line the bottom with honey, and then put in like hot water and whiskey and lemon. And this is great if you have the flu. I just outdrink my illness. I feel great.
You can't hang.
That's right.
It takes care of everything. It does. Like you take it the night before, sleep for 14 hours, you're set. With some cold medicine, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of it. I've never knew what was in it. So I appreciate that now. Yeah, I've heard
super
about it.
Simple to make.
Yeah, you think I'd Google it by now, but I haven't. But I like. Sounds good.
Thank you.
So Sarah the Rebel, where can everybody find you?
You can find me everywhere at Sarah the Rebel. Sarah's an H, is God in the Bible intended, and you should check out my Patreon.
And Cat Mom number 2, where can everybody find you, Emily May?
You can find me on all social media platforms at Emily May Heller.
And thank you guys so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Shout out again to Natalie for being our very first subscriber on Anchor. We really appreciate it. You are starting the trend, so we appreciate that. If you want to also be part of the Women's Wrestling Talk family, you can go to Anchor. You can hit donations. It's less than a cup of coffee a day. I mean, if you still go out, I don't know what's happening if you go out or not, but you can hit that donate button. We really, really appreciate it. It provides a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes that you do not see. But other than that, don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms. WW Talk on IG, WW Talk Pod on Twitter. And don't forget to like us and subscribe, all that good stuff on YouTube, all that good stuff. Dark Sheik, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. It was educational, and I love when I learn new things, because then I can dispense it to all the other folks, and I really, really appreciate that. And for you, just the whole, we have to talk about the whole church thing. I just want to put that into the universe. So let's cut that up, Sarah. But other than that, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you guys again for joining us. Till next time, guys. Ciao.